People in Savannah say some houses don't rot, they remember. Long before sunrise, when the fog from the marsh creeps into the streets and the Spanish moss hangs low like funeral lace, there is a house that seems to breathe. Locals avoid looking at it directly. Tour guides lower their voices when passing by. And anyone who has lived in Savannah long enough knows one simple truth. That house has never been empty. It stands on a quiet street where old brick homes whisper stories of war, loss, and unmarked graves. The paint has peeled, the windows are dark, and the front porch sags under its own weight. Yet no matter how many decades pass, the house refuses to collapse. No fire ever takes it. No storm ever claims it. At night, neighbors hear footsteps moving from room to room, slow, bare, dragging. Sometimes they hear a woman crying, sometimes praying, and sometimes laughing. But the most terrifying sound comes later, the soft, wet thump of something heavy being carried. Savannah is a city built on tradition and superstition. Old families still follow rules they never explain to outsiders. Don't whistle after midnight. Don't follow voices you didn't recognize. Don't knock on doors that haven't been opened in years. And above all, never enter the long abandoned house. Because if you do, you might meet her. Witnesses describe the same figure generation after generation. A woman dressed in mourning black, her long dress brushing the floor. Her posture is stiff, unnatural, as if her body no longer remembers how to walk. In her arms, she carries something wrapped in dark cloth. At first, people think it's a baby, until the cloth slips, until they see pale skin, open eyes, a mouth frozen mid-whisper. She is carrying her own severed head. Some swear the head blinks. Others say it whispers names of people who are still alive. And the most disturbing part, the woman does not chase. She does not scream. She only watches. Savannah locals say that if you lock eyes with her, she will follow you. Not that night, not the next day, but slowly, patiently, until you finally understand why she can never leave that house. What truly happened inside those walls was never recorded in police reports or newspapers. It survived only through church warnings, drunken confessions, and late-night ghost tours that always stopped just short of the front gate. Tonight, you're about to hear the full story. A story inspired by Savannah's darkest rumors. A story about faith, guilt, and a woman who lost more than her life. If you enjoy chilling horror stories inspired by America's most haunted places, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. Because once you hear what happened inside the long-abandoned house of Savannah, you may never look at empty homes the same way again.
Savannah, Georgia is not like other American cities. Here, the past doesn't fade, it lingers. It clings to the iron gates, the cobblestone streets, and the low-hanging Spanish moss that sways like mourning veils in the humid air. Locals grow up hearing that Savannah is one of the most haunted cities in America, and they don't say it with pride. They say it like a warning. At the edge of an old residential block, just far enough from tourist-heavy streets, stands the long-abandoned house everyone avoids. It doesn't have a plaque, it's never listed on official ghost tours, and yet everyone knows it. The house sits back from the road, half hidden behind overgrown hedges. The paint is cracked and gray, the windows darkened with age and grime. The front porch leans slightly to the left, as if the house itself is tired of standing. But despite decades of neglect, it refuses to collapse. No vines fully claim it. No storms tear it apart. No fire has ever touched it. That alone unsettles Savannah locals. Neighbors living nearby say the air changes when you walk past the property. Sounds grow dull. The scent of damp wood and old iron fills your lungs. Even on the hottest southern afternoons, the temperature around the house feels colder, unnaturally so. People avoid walking their dogs past it. Children are warned to cross the street. Delivery drivers pretend the address doesn't exist. And yet, every few years, someone new moves to Savannah. They don't know the rules. They see an empty house in a historic district and think opportunity, cheap rent, a fixer-upper, a piece of southern charm frozen in time. Those people never stay long. Some leave within days, claiming plumbing issues or mold. Others pack up overnight without telling anyone. A few abandon their belongings entirely, furniture, clothes, even family photos, as if leaving in a hurry mattered more than what they left behind. When questioned later, most refuse to talk. Those who do all describe the same first night. Footsteps above them. The sound of someone walking slowly from room to room, stopping just outside closed doors. The creak of old floorboards bending under invisible weight. And always, sometime after midnight, the sound that chills them the most. The quiet, rhythmic thud of something heavy being carried across the house. Police were called more than once over the years. Each time, officers found nothing. No signs of forced entry, no animals, no squatters, just silence. And on the staircase wall, faint handprints, small, pale, and smeared, as if someone had brushed past while holding something wet. By morning, the prints were always gone. Savannah learned to leave the house alone, because houses like that don't stay empty by accident.
Savannah is polite on the surface. Strangers smile at you, neighbors wave from their porches, tour guides crack jokes as they lead groups past centuries-old cemeteries. But beneath that southern hospitality lives a quiet fear, one that locals learn early and never question. Savannah has rules. Not laws written on paper, but traditions passed down through warnings, side glances, and unfinished sentences. Old families teach them to their children the same way their grandparents once did. Never whistle at night. Never follow footsteps you didn't make. Never answer a voice calling your name if you're alone. And when it comes to abandoned houses, especially that one, never step inside. Locals say whistling after midnight attracts wandering spirits, especially those who died violently or without prayer. Following unfamiliar footsteps is believed to invite something to walk beside you and never leave. Answering a disembodied voice is considered an invitation, a mistake you can't undo. These beliefs aren't written in guidebooks, but Savannah residents live by them, especially when the conversation turns to the long-abandoned house. Bartenders stop pouring drinks when its address is mentioned. Church elders cross themselves. Even ghost tour guides, people who make a living off fear, lower their voices and change the subject. Because the house is not just haunted, it is active. There is one rule whispered more urgently than all the others. If you see the woman in black, do not scream. Stories say the first people who encountered her did scream, and something answered. According to rumor, the woman appears most often after storms, when Savannah's streets are slick with rain and the air smells of salt from the nearby river. She is always silent, always slow. Her long dress never touches the ground, yet it sways as if heavy with water. Witnesses claim she clutches something to her chest as she walks. At first glance, it looks like a bundle of cloth. Those who look closer regret it, because wrapped inside is her head, pale, lifeless, yet horribly aware. Its eyes sometimes blink, its lips tremble as if whispering prayers or curses meant only for the living. People say screaming draws her attention. Once she notices you, she remembers. There are rumors of tourists who laughed at the stories, treating Savannah's ghosts like entertainment. One man reportedly shouted at her apparition, mocking it. He was found days later, wandering near the river, unable to speak. His hair had turned white. His eyes refused to focus. Doctors called it shock. Locals knew better. Church folklore suggests the woman is bound by unfinished rites. In old Southern belief, a body must be buried whole, blessed, and mourned properly, or the spirit will wander, confused and furious. The woman of the abandoned house was denied that peace, and Savannah pays the price for remembering her.
Long before Savannah became a city of tourists and ghost tours, it was a place ruled by faith, fear, and silence. Church records from the early 1800s mention a woman named Eleanor Whitaker. She lived in the house when it was still new, its paint bright and its windows open to the breeze from the river. Eleanor was described as quiet, obedient, and deeply religious, the kind of woman who never missed Sunday service and never raised her voice above a whisper. Her husband, Thomas Whitaker, was a merchant sailor who spent months away at sea. In Savannah, that was nothing unusual. What unsettled neighbors was Eleanor's behavior during his absence. She stopped attending social gatherings. She drew heavy curtains even during the day, and at night, faint candlelight flickered in every window. People said she prayed constantly, too constantly. Southern folklore warns against excessive prayer, not because faith is dangerous, but because desperation is. Eleanor was rumored to kneel for hours, whispering frantic pleas for protection, forgiveness, and deliverance. Then, one night, Thomas returned. No announcement, no greeting. Neighbors only knew because Eleanor's house filled with screaming. The sounds lasted hours, furniture crashing, voices arguing, and beneath it all, Eleanor's voice, pleading, begging, reciting scripture through sobs. By morning, the house was silent. Thomas was never seen again. When neighbors asked Eleanor about her husband, she smiled politely and said he was resting. But her eyes no longer focused on faces. They drifted toward empty corners, as if watching someone who wasn't there. Savannah church elders visited the house weeks later. According to legend, they found Eleanor pale, shaking, and surrounded by burned candles. The walls were said to be marked with crude religious symbols, crosses scratched too deep, prayers carved until the wood splintered. The elders urged her to leave the house. She refused. Soon after, the neighbors noticed a smell. Metallic, thick, wrong. Late at night, people walking past the house heard Eleanor speaking, not praying, but arguing with someone inside. Sometimes she screamed that she had done what was necessary. Other times she sobbed and begged for forgiveness. Then came the final night. A violent storm rolled in from the coast, rattling windows and flooding the streets. Lightning illuminated the house again and again, revealing Eleanor's silhouette moving wildly inside. At dawn, the front door stood open. Eleanor was found dead near the staircase. Her body was intact. Her head was missing. Church records list the cause of death as unknown. The head was never recovered. No explanation was offered, and Savannah, true to its nature, buried the story. But the house remembered. Savannah has always been a city that knows how to keep secrets. What happened inside the Whitaker house after Eleanor's death was never officially investigated. There were no headlines, no public inquests, only a brief church notice and a quiet burial, one that many locals believe was done wrong. Eleanor Whitaker was buried without her head. In early Southern belief, that alone was enough to curse a place. The funeral was held just after sunrise. The sky was still gray, heavy with leftover storm clouds. Few people attended. No family members came forward to claim the body. The minister rushed through the prayers, his hands visibly shaking. And as Eleanor's coffin was lowered into the ground, witnesses claimed they heard something echo from far away. A scream, not from the mourners, from the direction of the house. That same night, the first true disturbance occurred. Neighbors were awakened by the sound of footsteps pacing across the Whitaker porch. Slow, deliberate steps, as if someone were learning how to walk again. When curtains were pulled aside, no one stood outside. But the footsteps continued. Inside the house. Candles lit themselves in the windows, one by one, glowing faintly despite the rain. Shadows moved behind the glass, stretching unnaturally long, twisting into shapes that didn't resemble human bodies. One neighbor later swore they saw a woman standing at the top of the stairs. She was holding something, cradling it carefully. The smell returned soon after, the same metallic scent people remembered from Eleanor's final weeks. It seeped into nearby homes, clinging to fabric and hair. Dogs howled until their voices gave out. Horses refused to pass the street. Savannah's church elders attempted a blessing. They entered the house just before midnight, armed with holy water, scripture, and iron charms, an old Southern custom meant to ward off restless spirits. The ritual lasted less than 10 minutes. The men fled. According to one elder, the air inside the house grew heavy, pressing against their chests. Whispering filled the halls, prayers spoken backward, overlapping voices begging and accusing at once. And then they saw her, a woman dressed in black, standing in the hallway. Her body faced them. Her head did not. She held it under her arm, its eyes wide open, its mouth moving silently as if trying to speak. The elders dropped their charms and ran. By morning, the house fell silent again. The city quietly condemned the property. Boards were nailed over the doors, windows were sealed, and Savannah pretended the Whitaker house no longer existed. But some nights, when the fog rolls in thick from the marsh, locals say the boards loosen, and something inside remembers how to open doors. For years after the house was sealed, Savannah pretended the Whitaker property no longer existed. The boards stayed up, the gates rusted shut, city maps quietly removed the address. But fear has a way of leaking through cracks. The first witnesses were not thrill seekers or tourists. They were locals. An elderly couple living 2 houses down reported seeing lights inside the Whitaker house late at night. Not flashes, not reflections. Steady candlelight. Every window. They assumed squatters had moved in until the lights began to move in unison, gliding from room to room as if following a practiced routine. Then came the sounds. Footsteps on the second floor, dragging, uneven, slow. And beneath it all, a faint wet tapping, rhythmic, patient, echoing through the walls. One night, the couple saw her. The woman appeared at the upstairs window just after midnight. She wore a long black dress, soaked at the hem as if she had walked through standing water. Her body was rigid, her movements careful. She was holding something close to her chest. When lightning flashed, the cloth slipped. They saw a face. Its eyes were open, its lips trembled. The couple moved away the next morning. Word spread quietly through Savannah, not online, not in print, by whispers. A group of college students ignored the warnings months later. They slipped through a broken side gate, filming the house on their phones. The footage never surfaced online. According to police reports, only one student made it back to the street. He was barefoot, bleeding, repeating the same sentence over and over. She doesn't know where she ends. Inside the house, officers found the students' belongings neatly stacked near the staircase.
and handprints on the wall, small, pale, wet. Witnesses multiplied after that. A mail carrier claimed a woman stood on the porch one morning holding her head like a sleeping child. A jogger reported being followed by soft footsteps all the way home, only stopping when church bells rang. Everyone described the same detail. The head was still alive. Its eyes followed movement. Its mouth formed words no one could hear. Savannah authorities dismissed the claims, stress, hallucinations, old houses settling. But Savannah locals knew better. The Whitaker house wasn't haunted by a memory, it was occupied, and the woman was no longer staying inside.
Savannah makes a business out of its ghosts. Every night, lantern-lit tours wind through historic streets while guides tell stories polished by repetition. Most hauntings are treated like folklore, eerie, entertaining, safely distant. The Whitaker house was different. Most tour companies avoided it completely. The few that mentioned it did so from across the street, lowering their voices and moving on quickly. But eventually, curiosity and competition pushed one guide to cross a line. His name was Daniel Moore, a Savannah native who had grown up hearing the rumors. He believed fear was exaggerated by time. That night, he promised his group something exclusive, a story too real for other tours. Just after midnight, he led them down Whitaker's End. The air changed instantly. Phones lost signal, the cicadas went silent, even the lantern flames burned low as if starved of oxygen. Daniel stopped in front of the boarded house and began his story. He joked, he smiled, he knocked on the door. The knock echoed, once, then again from inside the house. The group laughed nervously, assuming it was part of the act. Then the front door creaked open. The boards bent outward as if pushed from within. A cold wind rushed past the group, carrying the smell of wet iron and old wood. From the darkness of the hallway, she emerged, a woman in black. Her body moved stiffly, like a puppet relearning motion. In her arms, she cradled a head wrapped in cloth. As she stepped into the lantern light, the cloth slipped. The head's eyes opened. They fixed on Daniel. He screamed. The scream echoed down the street, and then stopped. Witnesses later claimed Daniel fell to his knees, clutching his chest, unable to breathe. The woman did not touch him. She only leaned forward, her head whispering words no one else could hear. By the time police arrived, Daniel was alive, but changed. He never spoke again. He spent his days staring at his reflection, tracing the outline of his neck as if checking whether something was still attached. The tour company shut down within a week. Savannah added a new rule that night. Some stories are not meant to be told aloud. After the night of the failed ghost tour, Savannah grew quieter. Not calmer, quieter. People stopped joking about the Whitaker house. Online forums deleted posts. Guides revised their scripts. It was as if the city had collectively agreed to stop saying her name out loud. Because once you understand what the woman wants, you realize why she never leaves. Folklorists from nearby universities quietly interviewed locals, piecing together fragments of belief passed down through generations. In Southern Gothic tradition, a spirit born from violent imbalance does not seek revenge, it seeks completion. Eleanor Whitaker was buried wrong. Her body was laid to rest without its head, without final rites, without truth. In old Southern belief, influenced by Anglican and Gullah Geechee traditions, a soul divided in death remains divided forever. So she walks, half of her searching, half of her remembering. Witnesses began reporting a new pattern. The woman no longer stayed near the house. She appeared near churches, cemeteries, and river crossings, places tied to passage and judgment. Always carrying her head, always watching. Those who felt her presence described an overwhelming pressure, like guilt that didn't belong to them. Nightmares followed, dreams of staircases that never ended, of candles melting into blood, of a woman asking a single question: "Have you seen the rest of me?" People who tried to help her, who whispered prayers or left flowers, fared the worst. One man claimed he offered to retrieve her missing remains. That night, he dreamed of standing in the Whitaker house hallway, holding a shovel. He woke with mud under his fingernails. Others believed the head itself was the source of the curse. They claimed it still held Eleanor's final thoughts. Fear, guilt, and the moment of separation burned into memory. That was why its eyes still moved, why its mouth still formed words. It was reliving the end, over and over. Savannah elders warned that acknowledging her purpose binds you to it. Once she believes you understand, she follows, patiently, quietly, waiting for you to make a choice. Help her or replace her. Because in Savannah lore, unfinished spirits don't disappear. They find someone else to carry the burden. By the time autumn settled over Savannah, the sightings had changed. The woman was no longer tied to one place. She appeared in reflections, shop windows, car mirrors, dark phone screens. People reported seeing her standing behind them, perfectly still, only to turn around and find empty air. What followed was always the same, a growing certainty that something was walking just out of sight. Those who noticed her tried to leave the city. They packed quickly, quit jobs without notice, booked one-way tickets north, convinced distance would break whatever invisible thread had attached itself to them. It didn't. One woman claimed she saw the head first, resting gently in the passenger seat of her car as she crossed the state line. Its eyes were closed, its mouth curved into something almost peaceful. She crashed minutes later. Another man boarded a late-night train bound for Atlanta. Fellow passengers later told police he kept touching his neck, checking it again and again, whispering prayers under his breath. When the train passed through a tunnel, the lights flickered. When they came back on, his seat was empty. Savannah police refused to connect the incidents. Officially, they were accidents, mental health episodes, unrelated disappearances. Unofficially, officers avoided patrols near Whitaker's End. Security cameras near the house began to malfunction. Footage glitched, skipping entire minutes. When reviewed frame by frame, technicians reported a recurring anomaly, a woman-shaped blur holding a pale oval close to her chest. Neighbors noticed something else. At night, the abandoned house glowed faintly from within, not candlelight, something colder, something gray. Shadows moved across the windows in pairs, as if two figures occupied the space where one should be. A local priest attempted a private blessing. He didn't finish. Later, he told colleagues he heard a woman praying behind him, perfectly matching his words, but always one step ahead, as if she already knew what he was about to say. The message became clear to those paying attention. You could not outrun her. You could not banish her. Once chosen, you belonged to the story. And the house was no longer the cage. It was the anchor. Savannah folklore says haunted places don't hunt. They select. As winter approached, reports stopped spreading outward and began folding inward, circling the Whitaker house again. The woman's appearances grew rarer but heavier, like the city was holding its breath. Those closest to Whitaker's End felt it first. Neighbors described dreams that felt borrowed. They stood in rooms they'd never entered, staring at a staircase slick with rainwater. Candles burned without melting, and at the top of the stairs, a woman waited. Her body turned away, her head facing them, eyes pleading. People woke with the certainty that the house was watching. Real estate agents refused listings on the block. Surveyors' equipment malfunctioned. City workers reported sudden nausea the moment they crossed the property line. One inspector quit mid-shift after claiming the house whispered his full name, including a middle name no one used anymore. Then, the house opened. Not physically, socially. A young couple from out of state announced plans to renovate the property. They spoke openly online, excited by the history, dismissive of the rumors. Savannah locals flooded the comments with warnings that sounded vague, almost polite. The couple moved in anyway. For 3 nights, nothing happened. On the 4th night, neighbors saw lights moving inside, not room to room, but floor to floor, as if something was being carried up and down the stairs. On the 5th night, the woman appeared on the porch. She stood beside the couple, close enough that passers-by thought she was a friend helping with the move. In her arms, she held her head, resting against her shoulder like it belonged there. Witnesses said the head smiled. The couple vanished before dawn. Inside the house, police found fresh footprints leading only to the staircase. No signs of struggle, no blood. Only a mirror placed carefully against the wall at the base of the stairs. Savannah understood the message. The house had chosen. And when it does, the woman no longer needs to wander, because someone else is being prepared to stay. After the disappearance of the young couple, Savannah did what it has always done best. It adjusted. The street near Whitaker's End grew quieter. No one gathered on porches anymore. Curtains stayed drawn. Conversations lowered themselves instinctively whenever the house came into view. Officially, the case went cold. Unofficially, everyone knew it was over. The house no longer showed signs of unrest. No lights, no footsteps, no shadows in the windows. For the first time in decades, it looked truly empty. That frightened people more than anything. Those familiar with Savannah's oldest beliefs understood the pattern. When a restless spirit finds balance, it stops wandering. When the searching ends, something else begins. Months passed. Then one night, a single light appeared in the upstairs window. A steady glow. Not candlelight, a lamp. Neighbors watched from behind curtains as a figure moved slowly inside the room. The silhouette paused near the mirror, lifting its hands to its neck, tracing the skin as if remembering something important. No one called the police. They already knew who lived there now. The next morning, the front porch had been cleaned. The door stood freshly painted. A vase of white flowers rested beside the steps, a sign of mourning in old Southern tradition. And in the window, for just a moment, someone saw a woman standing still. She wore a long black dress. Her posture was stiff, but her hands were empty. Savannah learned its final lesson then. The woman had found peace. The house had not. Because peace in places like Savannah is never permanent. It is borrowed, passed from one soul to another like an inheritance no one wants. To this day, the Whitaker house remains standing. No one advertises it, no one renovates it, and every few years a new name quietly replaces an old one in whispered conversations. If you ever visit Savannah and walk its streets after midnight, pay attention to the houses that look cared for but unlived in. And if you see a woman in black standing at an upstairs window, gently touching her neck as if checking whether it's still there, don't wave, don't knock, and don't ask who lives there. Because in Savannah, some houses are never empty. They are waiting. Savannah is often described as beautiful, charming, romantic. But those words only belong to the daytime. When night falls and the air grows heavy with moisture from the river, Savannah becomes something else entirely. A city where the past doesn't stay behind glass displays or history books. It walks beside you. It listens. It remembers when you try to forget. The story of the Whitaker house is no longer told openly. It doesn't appear on official maps or guided tours, yet locals still glance toward Whitaker's end when they pass nearby, their steps unconsciously quickening. Because the house still stands. It always will. People who understand Savannah know that some places are left untouched not out of respect, but out of fear. Fear that disturbing the balance, even accidentally, might awaken something that finally learned how to rest. And sometimes, late at night, when the city is quiet and the cicadas stop singing, neighbors swear they see a single light flicker in an upstairs window, just long enough to be noticed. A reminder. If you ever visit Savannah, remember the rules. Don't whistle after midnight. Don't follow footsteps you didn't make. And don't assume an empty house is unoccupied. Because in Savannah, the dead don't always stay where they're buried. Some walk, some wait, and some houses choose. Sleep well, and if you enjoyed this story, stay curious, but never too curious, because not every door wants to be opened.